to Death and Aliens, an in-depth look at horror and sci-fi TV from two friends who vaguely know what they're doing. I'm MK.
And I'm Courtney.
And Courtney, how are you?
I am just splendid. I have, it has been 7 weeks since I've seen you, but really only one. Um, it's just a lot of things
Yeah.
happen in the world, happening in the world of Courtney. But one of the good things that has happening, right after we spoke the next day, I got to go to my concert that I've been waiting to go to for like 6 months. I went and saw Rue opened. They're fine. They look 12. They're 18, but they look 12. They were fine though. I'm good
Yeah.
for them. And then they opened, and then it was Plain White Tees, who I absolutely adore.
Who
One of my
you
favorite
you
bands.
also must have been listening to them a lot, either in preparation or post the concert, because I was trying to Google something like an artist and I pulled up their Spotify, and Spotify, now that there's this Spotify blend
Did
situation
you
where
join me?
I did join you. And but so now that
Yeah.
Spotify blend exists where based on Courtney's music and my music, it will suggest music for me. Um, I was like Googling an artist I had never heard of, and it was like, do you want to keep listening to Plain White Tees? And I was like, I don't know, Courtney, do I?
Yes, always. No, I listened a lot before, I listened a lot after, and I listened a lot for the past 10 years. So
Right.
there is a real history there. I've been really listening to their new stuff lately because I wasn't as familiar with it. But like
Right. I
All That
just
We Needed,
know
always ends
I
up on my
don't
playlist.
dislike Plain White Tees.
Oh, I love them.
No, I don't dislike Plain White Tees, but the only things I've been listening to actively on Spotify in the last like 3 weeks are Tokyo Hotel and Broadway
Mm.
music. So it sure wasn't me that put
Ooh,
them
not
on.
the same. Not the
No,
same. No.
sure wasn't me who put them there.
Yeah, I've been listening to Plain White Tees, Andy Grammer. I've not listened to his new album yet, which is a travesty for me because it came out like 5 days ago. And The Used, because The Used, it was their concert. And oh my gosh, that lead singer is psychotic, but I love him.
Sure is.
He did like a cartwheel like competition in the middle of the show and
Sounds
like
about
gave
right.
away a t-shirt. Like it's so wild.
Mhm.
Um, but like a lifetime dream. Like if 15-year-old me could have known that this is what we were coming to. Like Bird and the Worm was my running song in high school.
Ooh.
So
Yeah.
I've been listening to The Used for a
It's,
minute. Um, and Plain White Tees is just my
my
life songs.
my a former friend of mine, who anyone who listens to this podcast who knows me probably knows exactly who I'm talking about. Her sister went to the Used concert when we were kids, and was like at the stage. And when Bert leaned down to sing to her, she ripped his hair out and had it taped to her bedroom wall.
That is more psychotic than the lead singer.
Correct. No, no,
So
no. It is. I
yeah,
mean, and but yeah.
yeah. Yeah, but it was, I mean, literally Plain White Tees is like the story of my life. I've seen all of the people that have spoke to my soul my whole life. I've seen them this year and it's been amazing.
Yeah.
Other than Fall Out Boy, but I've seen them before, just not this year.
Yeah.
Um, but like they did All That We Needed, Hey, I Really Don't Like You. And of course they did their new stuff, which I am more familiar with than I expected to be. Um, and then of course like Hey There Delilah and Our Time
Mhm.
Now, all the big ones that everyone knows.
Yeah.
But it was just it was my heart like fluttered. However, The Used was a real rock show. And so it was very loud. Like Rachel was not doing well with the lights because they were very
Yes.
flashy. And
Yes.
it was just so much, but it was so much fun. And I think I'm sure I've talked about this before, but
Yeah.
I did like the 4 pack because it was like 60 or $80 a ticket. But
Yeah.
then you
Oh,
had like
yeah,
a
yeah, yeah. You
code.
did talk about that.
Yeah, so you get like 4 tickets for $80 total. So I just bought 4 tickets and I was like, we'll find a fourth person because it was me and Rachel and Nick. And then my friend Kirsten ended up coming with us. And so it was really nice and always a good time, always a good time. And I'm ready to go see play. That was and this was the last show for Plain White Tees on this tour. So like they're not on the tour
Oh,
now.
okay.
Um,
Which is
but so it was
probably
really cool.
better because that's a very odd combination.
Such an odd combination, right? Like whenever I can't remember anyone's name right now. The lead singer of Plain White Tees. when he came out, he was like, "We're so stoked to be on this tour because the Used has been like one of our favorite bands forever." And I was like, "That makes sense. That it's like a we want to do this because we all like each other, not because we're trying to put a
Right.
tour together, a normal tour together."
Right.
But I mean, hey, those were two of my favorite bands in high school and up
I mean,
until now,
that's
even.
fair. Like, look at
Like I
us.
was glad to see them all at once.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's how I am. I'm still constantly playing White Tees every day of my life. Because I can't stop. So how are you?
I'm I'm okay. I don't I don't have a lot of good things to talk about in my life right now. So for the next couple weeks worth of podcasts, I don't know. Good luck, everybody.
Hmm.
Um, but I did want to share a story about something that I accused you of that I don't know if you know that I've accused you.
How dare you? While I'm eating soup, by the way, while I'm eating my soup, you're accusing me of things.
So Rachel sent me a TikTok of like the craziest roommate situation ever. This girl was like fucking so weird and she was like keeping jars of people of this like girls like shit together and she like had all these jars and like of like her boyfriend's hair and like this
This
girl's
does not sound like
underwear
me.
and like but it was like wild and like got to the point where like they
Like
were
single
like
white female.
yeah, like
Okay.
actively had to get a restraining order, and this girl was like sitting outside their house with like putting like jars with pictures of her dead mom's obituary and stuff, like fucking crazy. And I responded to her sending me this video by, is this your way of telling me that Courtney is keeping your things in jars?
Oh, I did not know about this. No one has mentioned this to me.
This
I'm
just
also not
happened
keeping
this
things in
morning. This
jars.
just happened
I don't
this
even have
morning.
jars.
And
Um,
she just goes, okay, no, Courtney's crazy, but she's not that crazy.
Thank you. I do appreciate the support.
Um,
No, I haven't seen Rachel today. She's at the office still, I think. I don't
Yeah,
know.
well, that
So
just so you know, that's what she does at work. Is her and I talk shit about you while she's at work.
excellent. That is great news for my great week. It is I love to hear that my two best friends just talk shit about me all the time. Excellent.
No,
I love
no,
it.
but if she didn't send you this, I'm sure she also sent you this
I'm
video.
sure she has sent me
It
this
was
video.
wild.
I haven't opened the TikToks
No,
today because it's usually my, my midnight adventure.
right, right, right,
Um,
right.
so and I usually look at it like every 3 days. I have 4 videos from her.
Yeah, one of
Uber, how to search if someone's been in trouble with the law, spooky, scary story time,
that one, the
and
spooky, scary story time.
okay. So
That
yeah,
one, yeah,
excellent.
wild. So,
Good to know at least I'm included in the conversation, even if you all have to talk and say bad things about me.
but that was while I was waiting for everyone to come fix my house today. I watched Over the Garden Wall and talked about
Terrifying.
you.
All of my least favorite things. People talking about me behind my back and watching Over the Garden Wall. All bad things. My worst nightmares.
Um,
Thank you.
I last year apparently I only watched the first three episodes because when I went to watch it today, it said resume and it said season one,
Ooh,
episode four. And I go, how did I do that? Um, so then I had to obviously restart at the beginning because
sure.
it's
It's a new
it's
year.
it's a new year and Dan goes, we've already watched this. I go, not this fall, we haven't.
Yeah, that's not how, while I do not condone watching Over the Garden Wall, that is how TV works. If you
Right.
have not watched it in a year and you've only 3 episodes in, you just start over and try again.
Right, but also Over the Garden Wall is 10 10-minute episodes. It's like
Right,
it's a
right, right.
movie. It's like a movie. You watch it every fall. It's not
It's
a
like a
it's
90s movie, not even like a regular day movie.
yeah, it's like um but then episode 2 started and he saw the title and he goes, "Oh, I remember this one." And I was like, "Yes."
You've
So,
also condemned him
I
to
have
hell.
I have
It's fine.
it's
I'll
fine.
watch it one day and I'll be like, this is nothing. I did start it whenever Caitlin was staying with me one time, but
Yeah. I
it
mean,
was terrifying.
I don't know. I just find it funny and cute. It's like,
Find it disturbing.
well, you also probably would have found all of us disturbing if you had lived in that apartment.
I don't know. Caitlin made it through. And I'm tougher than her.
That's true.
I
But
love her.
Caitlyn,
I'm
but
tougher
Caitlyn
than her.
also fit in. She was part of the weird.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I would have
Ah,
been team too much to be in that apartment.
probably. But yeah, so since I don't have anything good going on except for fall
Cool, cool,
movies,
cool.
can you raise my spirits up?
Absolutely. Let me figure out how to get back to my albums. There we are. Um, I have this quote for you that's not quoted by anyone, so I'm just going to tell you what it says. You made that choice to improve yourself for a reason. Don't go back to habits and situations that weren't helping you evolve. You have to keep reminding yourself why you even decided to move forward.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Well, today we are watching Stargate SG-1, Season 6, Episode 21, Prophecy. It premiered on March 14th, 2003, and was rated 7.5 stars.
Is that lower than last week? When last week? 7.6?
I think it is. I think it is. Last week's episode was 7.8. Yes.
Hmm. Okay.
Which I don't necessarily know that I agree with.
What was last week's episode?
It was the one where they were on the Prometheus. Yeah, and
Better.
I thought this one was better too. It's not the most exciting, and
But it's very interesting. Like it's not
yeah,
very like it's really interesting.
yeah. And I do think it is. I think the biggest problem is that it doesn't do as much to set up the finale as I think you want it to.
I think that's fair, especially knowing that they didn't know they were getting renewed.
Right. Um, it's okay. They actually by this point they might have. We'll talk about
Mm.
when we do our season wrap up, we'll talk
Timing.
about when the timing for and of everything. But yeah, I don't know. It's okay. It's okay. There was same book, movie, and song as last week, so nothing to talk about there. And there was no news that I could find anywhere that did not involve war in the Middle East. So,
Oh, good. Well, we've
yeah,
got enough of that. So,
right. It was directed by William Waring, who is a name we've heard before, but just not
okay.
for a very long time. He did a lot in season 3.
Oh, like a minute.
Yeah. And then it was written by Joseph Mosey and Paul Mully and edited by Rick Martin. The guest star who played Alori, who was actually the highest ranked guest star, surprisingly. And his name is Thomas Capacci. He is known for Catch Me If You Can, which I love that movie. Star Trek Generations and Leaving Las Vegas. Um, Oh, I was really confused when I first started to write him down because I was convinced I had already written about him because his face was so familiar to me. But it's because he plays the Secretary of State on The West Wing, and so I have
Mm.
seen his face quite a lot.
So which one was Lori? You know,
He's
I'm
the
terrible at names.
no, he is the leader of the village who wanted them to help.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Um, but yes, he's 78 years old. He
Bless him.
was the Secretary of State on The West Wing. And he is one of only 4 actors ever to play 7 different Star Trek characters.
Oh, good for him.
Yeah, so yeah, good for him. Cool beans. We have a really weird previously on in this episode. Um, because it's reminding us of all of the necessary information for this episode. It just also doesn't feel very connected to each other.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it is all of the information we have about the Hawktor, basically. So finding out what a Hawktor was, Nearty's thing, experiments on Cassandra, what Nearty was trying to do, and Nearty's experiments on the planet that we just recently saw this season are all in this previously on. Um, and then we start just already in the middle of a mission. SG-1 is sitting at a table eating with people who are poor, which we really only know how poor they are because they have terrible food and then they apologize for being too poor to
For
give them real
being
food.
poor. Yeah.
Yeah.
Same. That'll be me whenever I get my own place.
Yeah. Um,
You'll only
and
see me eating soup, so this is the beginning of the end. Um,
um, so they are working in mines to gather naquita. Um, and we find out that technically the god that they serve is Baal. But Baal hasn't been there in a very long time. Um, and
and Ball was
the
on the shit when we had that everyone
yes,
meeting, right?
Baal is the
And
one
that's the
who
last time we saw him?
no, Baal is the one who killed Jack 50,000 times.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Um, so um they are gathering this for Lord Mott, who is an emissary of Baal, who is a Canaanite god. Um, which is interesting because, well, let's just pull in all kinds of historical myths into this.
They're just opening up the universe to be
Yeah.
whatever they need it to be for the next 3,000 years.
Yeah.
Um,
But while they're having these conversations, Jonas seems like he's not doing too well. He's like real clammy and sweaty and distracted. And then he has a really weird vision, like of a conversation at that table. Um and Alori starts explaining that he hopes that SG-1 is there to help them because there was a prophecy a long time ago about strangers from another world coming to help them free themselves from the gods. And then
um, was this one of my predictions last week? I know I said about 5 different things about prophecies. Was this one of them I said?
I genuinely do not remember any of your
I was like,
predictions.
because I feel like I said something about there being like, we're gonna go somewhere and they're gonna have a prophecy we have to solve. Because it feels very
Yeah.
generic. So I feel like I probably
Yeah,
had to have
that
said
does
it.
that feels like the generically correct thing that you would have said that
Yeah.
it fell into it. To
I'm
be
really good
fair,
at predictions recently.
the prophecy that they're like them fulfilling this prophecy is somehow like the umbrella that this episode falls under, and yet like not at all what this episode's about.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Right.
Um,
I mean, let's see.
and but so, but so
Last
then
week we had it's Jack finds a picture of a woman who's not there when there's no humans there. Like,
yeah.
who's
And
to say?
so so but then the vision that Jonas had just had of the conversation that Alori and Chazin were having happens for real. And Jonas promptly passes out on the ground.
Yeah.
And then we get the credits.
And all I could think was, I have just found my husband. If he dies immediately after I've decided that I'm in love with him, one, like just I can't handle it right now.
I
Also,
did
but
I did pause this episode a couple times to tell my mom about how you've just decided that you're in love with Jonas.
I am. I am.
Um, Back at the SGC after the credits, Janet has run some tests because of Jonas's past. And she or no, she's run some tests. Oh, and because of Jonas's past, she also does an MRI. We all know that the Nequadria has not turned out very well, and a lot of the scientists that Jonas worked with ended up schizophrenic, and anytime Jonas is having any kind of brain problems, they're like, huh, please no.
Whoops.
Um,
Yeah.
but it doesn't seem to be an explanation. Like there's some odd brain activity on the scan, but it doesn't seem to be an explanation for anything that like is happening to him.
It's out of the ordinary. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. She's like, there's something like a little weird. So like we're gonna run some more tests, but I genuinely cannot explain anything that's going on. So she's being
Right.
cautious and she's gonna just keep checking. Um, we find out that Sam has checked in with the Tok'ra just to try to like verify these people's story about their planet and everything. And turns out that like Baal is not getting any Naquadah from that planet um at all. So they figure out that Mott must be stockpiling it for himself to try to like overthrow Baal. Because
He's
the
not
problem
cool.
with the Goa'uld is that they all want to be the most powerful person, which means that they also can't have people working for or with them because they also want to be the most powerful
Right.
person.
You can't trust anyone.
No.
It's such a nightmare.
Um, they discuss whether or not they're going to help free these people. And while they're having this conversation, Jonas has another premonition vision thing. Um, and in Jonas's office, Sam comes in to get him for lunch, and he tells her that he already had a vision of her asking him. Um, and Sam starts to mansplain deja vu.
Oh my gosh, this moment, I was like, this is obviously not it, Sam. I understand where you're coming from. This is obviously not it.
God, that's not what happened. Thank you.
Bless her
Thank,
heart. Oh my
thank you.
gosh.
And he's like, no, this is like different. This is very different than that. Um, then we see Hammond in his office, and Janet comes to talk to him. And she's like, Jonas is not suffering from schizophrenia. Like, that's not what's happening. We can rule that out. But he might have a brain tumor. And so she's like,
This
let's
poor
just
man.
take him off of active duty. So when SG-1 goes to tell Jonas that he's being taken off of or off of active duty, he's like, please just like have faith in me. And he basically is like, the last time I was seeing shit, you guys thought I was wrong, but I wasn't.
Okay, but to be fair, this is very different. I understand that he's saying this as if it makes sense. These are different things because
But
you're seeing things in your head now and not in front of your face. Those are
right,
different,
but
different
also
problems.
Jonas has been a part of our team for one season. One season.
Yeah,
And this is now the third episode where Jonas is seeing shit and we don't believe it.
yeah. They are all different instances though. Like
They're all so
he's got a lot
different.
going on.
But it's like, maybe, maybe just stop telling people what you're seeing.
Just hold it in like the rest of us. Hold in all of your strangeness like the rest of the people in the world.
Yeah. Um, they try to understand what's happening. Um, and like try to explain like what is he seeing, like what is he feeling, what is actually going on. And he just tells them that the Tok'ra are coming and that there's a girl Tok'ra named Cinna and she's there to talk to them. And then they all walk into the briefing room and there's a Tok'ra named Cinna there that none of them have ever met before.
I just I feel like that would have been enough for me. Like everyone's like, I don't know what's going on. This is crazy. And I'm like, sounds right to me. Like maybe a tumor, but also he's for
Which
sure having like
I
visions.
something that happens next week. I'm gonna come back to this about why do we believe some people and not others about their visions.
Truly. Oh, yes. Facts.
We'll come back to this next week. But yeah, no, they're just like, how did you know that? He's like, I how else would I know it? I saw it, it happened, and then it happened again. Like, um, but Cinna tells them that Baal has recently suffered a loss from Lord Yu, who is the only system lord who has not joined Anubis. And that he has continued fighting and has really not lost that many people, and he has some pretty impressive persistence. Um, and then Jen goes, "You go, you."
That was I'm ready to see you again. I'm ready for you to
You,
come back to our lives.
I saw something online that said this comparison, and it was an interview, and I can't remember if the interview was with Joseph Malosi or with Michael Shanks, but it basically was like, you is the Mayborn of Goa'uld. Like, and
That is so true. Oh, that's so
and
perfect.
it was like he's not a good guy. But are we not thrilled
Are you
every time we
rooting for
see him?
him?
Are we rooting for him?
Right.
We're rooting for
Yeah.
him.
Hmm.
Um and Anubis is unhappy with Baal, and for losing so many troops. And so
Hmm.
he's kind of been cast aside, which is gives us the opportune moment for Mott to take his stockpiled Naquadah and Jaffa and attack Baal and basically move up from servitude. Um,
Right.
but Jonas is still having headaches during all of this, and he can't really understand um, what's happening. But he explains to Sam that despite not really knowing what's happening or really having an understanding of what's happening, every or this is not the first time. It's the first time that they've dealt with precognition or like visions, but it's not the first time that they've dealt with someone who had like
Like
telepowers.
telepathic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
telepowers
Telepowers.
basically. They because of all of Nerti's experiments.
Hmm.
And they kind of like come to the conclusion that whatever's happening to Jonas must be because of what happened when he was in the gene splicer thing that Nerti had. Which makes sense
Right.
because we find out he's been was in it for like an hour.
Which is insane. Like, I don't
And
know how
they
he
and
is
they
still
never
alive.
but they also never thought to check if she just looked at him or tested him.
Right. Like, it's been long enough that they should have been like
Right.
running
And like
tests.
when they put Sam back in the machine to fix herself, they didn't also do that to Jonas. So confused. Anyway, um, Janet discovers that the tumor itself isn't cancerous. That's not what it is. But it is growing so rapidly that it's already doubled in size in just the amount of time we've seen this on this episode so far. And
Which
without certain
again feels unrealistic because we haven't seen it before now.
right,
And
it's
it's
been
been
a
at
it's been a
least
hot
this
minute.
episode's worth of time.
Yeah, it's been a hot minute.
So it was a
Um,
choice, but that's fine.
but also without surgery, he may die from cranial pressure buildup.
Sure. Yeah. Sure. Why not?
That sounds realistic.
Hmm.
Nothing really else that she said about the tumor sounds realistic, other than a rapidly growing tumor will cause a cranial buildup.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Um, Jonas doesn't think surgery is the right option.
I panic with surgeries too, so I get it. I too would be like, let's talk for a minute before we like cut my brain open.
Okay, but your problem is that you would like to discuss alternate therapies that don't involve somebody cutting your brain open.
Hmm.
His hesitation is that maybe this tumor is a good thing.
To be fair, if I had one that came with visions that were actually happening, that were not some like brain issue, um, might be more inclined to be like,
But
let's wait and
how
see.
but how do we prove that what you're seeing is actually what's happening or what it's just what you're saying? Because Norman thought his visions were actually happening too.
Well, no, that's you tell people, and then other people verify if they're true or not. You don't just come up with crazy ideas and be like, my mom's not dead that I killed a year ago. Like, it's those are very different things. Jonas would say this is the thing that's going to happen, and then that thing would happen. And to an extent, it is like a you create your own destiny, so you say it out loud, you manifest it type thing.
Yeah.
But eventually, that's like this is too much of a coincidence. Like you can't have seven things happen in a row. It's
Fair,
like
fair,
it's
fair.
scientifically testable.
Um, and so he explains his theory about Nerti and the what happened to his brain. And Janet and Jack are both kind of like, okay, like you're probably right, but you're still gonna die.
Sure, yeah, that's a factor,
So
of course.
maybe let's not. Um, and Jonas is like, please just give me some time to prove that I can hone these visions, which is what Nirti would have wanted me to have these for in the first place, to have a tactical advantage and to like use them.
Right.
And he's like, just like give me 48 hours. And they're like, absolutely not. Not a chance. And Hammond's like, I will give you 24. And here I come into another problem I have with this episode. Hammond says, I will give you 24 and you will be monitored the entire time. But clearly that's not what's happening because later when he passes out, no one was monitoring
No
him.
one's there. There's no
So
monitoring. Yeah.
I don't know what Hammond considers being monitored on base, but whatever it is, didn't happen.
Mhm.
And oh, I couldn't understand why I used the word clock as a verb, but I did mean it as a verb.
Oh, like they clocked
Like,
him.
yeah, because I wrote Janet
Yeah.
clocks that Jonas is doing
Yeah.
this. And
Yeah.
yeah, Janet clocks that Jonas is doing this because he feels like he has to prove himself. She's like, I know you still think that they don't see you as a part of the team, but literally dying because you're trying to hone a brain tumor to be a magical power is
Yeah.
not necessary for them to want you here. Like, you do see that, right? He doesn't. But then Jonas has a vision of Sam being injured and being in VFib. And when he comes to, the gate is opening. So he just runs out of the infirmary after the rest of SG-1. And he stops them from leaving and he tells them what he saw. And Sam is like, we don't even know that your visions are actually true. Absolutely not. I'm not staying here. And Hammond's like,
Just
okay, but
true.
like, so far everything he saw happened. And she's like, every time we go through that gate, it's a risk. It's a risk I'm willing to take. And he goes, girl,
Not today.
I'm gonna need you to rein it in a little bit. Um, and but Jack's like, why don't we just leave Sam behind instead of just canceling the whole mission? And so they agree that that is the compromise. Um, Back on the planet, Jack asks Lori if this is really what they want. And basically he's like, fuck Lord Mott, I hate that guy. Um, and he's like, he killed my daughter's husband. He is a terrible person. Like the prophecy says, we're going to be free. I want to be free. I'm in. But the annoying
I mean,
guy,
totally be fair. If my option is this team that has like arrived that seems really lovely, and this guy who's like a nut job who's so insane, like yeah, I'm about to buy it real fast.
right? Um, yeah, especially when the team is like not like, we'll do this if you do this thing for us. There's no strings. They're just like, do you want us to kill that guy? Okay.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
but then Chazin, who I couldn't remember his name when I wrote this note, I wrote the one annoying guy. Um, he runs out into the woods and turns out he has like World TV ball and he betrays everyone. Little bitch.
Yeah.
Um, and then Jonas is trying to study how precognition works in a book, but his head hurts too much to read.
Yeah. Again, I would like to believe that I would be like, this isn't doing it for me. However, my head hurts frequently, too much to do anything. So I just be like, it's just another day. We
Yeah.
just keep holding on.
Right.
That's fine.
And there's a medical emergency on level 25. And it turns out that Jonas's vision was of Sam getting hurt on base, even though he tried to stop it. Because Sam and Sergeant Seiler were working on something and there was a little mini explosion on the base.
Whoopsie.
Jonas goes to talk to Sam to apologize. And he and Sam have a conversation about how he's really desperate to try to work on this precognition skill and be able to figure it out. And Sam is basically like, she's like, quantum mechanics disregards the entire existence of precognition because the only way to see how things are going to happen is to know both where a particle is and how it's moving. And you can't know both. She's like, and the more you know, the less you know. Like, that's not how that really
Right.
truly works. Um, then back on the planet, they're discussing how they're gonna ambush Mott and they're like setting up their borders and everything. When Chasm comes back and he's like, haha, I've already called Mott and throws one of those strobe light bombs at everybody.
I hate this guy.
Um, on the base, Janet goes to talk to Jonas about his brain scan and finds him passed out on the floor because we do a really good job of monitoring the people who are under medical
Right.
monitoring.
Yes. 24-hour monitoring is not quite right.
No. Um, So SG's 1 and 15 wake up in a gold cell, and Mott shows up and he's like, my plan is to destroy the SGC. I stole your GDO. Ha ha ha. I'm going to kill Ball and rise the ranks and get praised by Anubis. And I'm going to torture you if I have to. I am evil.
Hold
Hee hee
on.
hee.
What'd you say? Okay. You got it. Sorry, the yard guy's coming to finish the yard, so the gates are open, so Aurora can't go outside.
Mm. Cool, cool,
Okay,
cool.
go ahead.
But yeah, he's like, hee hee hee, I am evil cartoon villain. And he's like, but first, I shall go torture all the villagers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mott also looks like an evil cartoon villain.
He does. He's got this like
His face
he's
is
got
like
like a cartoon
shaped.
face.
Yeah, his face is shaped
It's
like a cartoon.
almost like he got, I don't know if they put a lot of prosthetics on him or if that's
But
just what he looks
but
like.
it looks like he has like cheek filler, but
Yes.
too high.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, it reminds me of the movie Smile and like the creepy.
Oh my gosh, I am so ready for the second one. I think it's going to be 10 times scarier than the first one,
It comes out
but
what next week, right?
I think so. It's soon. I don't remember what day it
Yeah,
is.
but it's like
Yeah.
terrifying. He looks like
Did you watch that movie?
absolutely not.
Okay, I watched it. I was
Well, yeah,
I was gonna say I am shocked that you made it through that
I
movie.
for sure did not watch that movie.
I did. It's
No.
terrifying. It's fine. It's terrifying.
Yeah, no. If a movie actually gives me nightmares from the commercial, I won't watch
Mhm.
it.
That
Like
is completely
a
fair.
scary movie that I can get through the commercial and think that would be interesting, I can handle. If I'm already having a panic attack at the commercial, whether I understand that some scary movies do the whole like all of the jump scares are in the commercial in the trailer and then they're not really that scary in the actual movie
Right.
and they're a
Which is
letdown.
the
And
most
I
obnoxious thing in the entire world when it comes to horror films. When you put all of the important parts in the commercials, I want
yeah.
to punch you in the face.
Right. And it's a letdown and it's a terrible marketing strategy and that's all well and
Mhm.
good. But if I'm that level of scared at the trailer, whether the movie is scarier than the trailer or not, I can't.
Right. Which is fair.
But like, so Smile, never. The other one that I really will never be able to watch because the movie just fucking or the trailers just fucking destroyed me were The Devil Inside.
I haven't watched that one because it also is very scary. Very
Yeah.
scary.
Yeah. Don't do that one. But Jonas wakes up in the infirmary after having a seizure, and Janet's like, "We can't wait any longer. Like, you're at the level of having seizures. Like, your tumor is we can't." Um, but while she's talking to him, Jonas has another vision, and it's of SG-15 dialing in and the base getting attacked by a bunch of Goa'uld bombs and like completely overthrown, and the SGC being destroyed. Um, So Jonas tells Sam and Hammond about the vision, and he's like, let me try to get more info. And Janet's like, absolutely not. You have to have surgery right now. This is not
Which
an
like
option.
it's time.
Yeah. Um, but then on the planet, Alori's daughter poses as a servant and breaks the team out of jail. Um, while Jonas tries to use Kelnal Reem to clear his head and figure out where his vision came from. And he sees Jack and Pierce, who's the leader of SG-15, dial out and then get ambushed by Jaffa. And Pierce and Teal'c both die. And he like
I
tries.
was for sure convinced that he was about to screw everything up again. For sure. Which I understand is what they wanted you to say. It was in your face. You should have figured that out in the beginning,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Um, and he tries to get to the control room to tell Hammond about it, but he passes out again, so Janet rushes him to surgery. Um, on the planet, Alori's daughter leads them to the gate and is like, here's where you gotta go. Goodbye. Back on the base while being rushed to surgery, Jonas tells Sam what happened, and and then she goes to tell Hammond to warn them. And they decide that they don't know what is going to happen, but the least they can do is radio SG-1 and 15 and at least like give them a warning that there's an ambush possible. Um, and Hammond radios, but we did already know at this point, and now we know for sure that the that Chazin has all their radios. So he hears this message about the Jaffa ambush and sends someone to go check on the prisoners. Um, Sam is like, we have to send reinforcements. We have to get them out. And Ham's like, we can't risk it. If there's literally an ambush at the gate, like sending more people is
everyone
not,
dies.
everyone dies.
Right.
That's not going to happen. But when Chasm finds out that the prisoners are gone, he sounds the alarm, which doesn't help the Jaffa. It actually tips Jack off to the fact that the Jaffa are coming toward the gate, and he and Pierce and Teal'c see the ambush coming and are able to fight back.
Praise.
Mott goes to Chazin and is like, what the fuck did you do? I knew she was letting them out. It was a plan. Everything was supposed to happen that way because then they all die and I get their base codes. Like, you are an idiot. So he starts to torture Chazin, but Alori's daughter just shoots him. Fucking dead.
Yeah.
In surgery on the planet, they find an astrocytoma in Jonas's brain, and they are like, "Oh my gosh, this is such a rare cancer. We have to do crazy or surgery." Blah blah blah. Then the gate gets dialed SG-15's GDO code. They have all these defense people already around the gate, but they open the gate anyway because they have no other choice. And Jack comes through and is thoroughly confused by all the people ready to shoot him. Afterwards, the team goes to visit Jonas and after his surgery and check on him. And Jack tells him to get well soon, and that they do need him on the team. And Jonas has a really sweet moment about how it's funny how like what he saw changed those damn hearts. What he saw changed the future and still ended up fulfilling the prophecy. So they don't actually, no matter what he thought, have any control over what's going to happen. I do have some trivia.
Ooh, love trivia.
And one is that the word Mot itself, it is a Canaanite god, but it actually is the word for death in several Semitic and Afro-Asiatic languages. So like
Okay.
Malosi calls this episode his biggest disappointment of everything that he wrote because he feels that the big buildup should have been the moment where we don't know if when Jack calls Pierce, it's replaying the memory or him
Yeah.
seeing the Jaffa, and it wasn't shot or edited in a way that gave any weight to that moment. It just blows past it. And so, as a writer,
That's
with this an
fair.
idea of a story, this is his least favorite episode he ever wrote anything for because he doesn't feel like it held up as a dramatic moment.
Which is fair.
Yeah. The rest of my trivia is about this damn surgery. So, an astrocytoma is a type of glial cell tumor. And a glial cell is a brain cell that is um, in charge of your nervous system. But it affects the way the brain blood barrier works. But astrocytomas, she acted like this was a crazy rare thing to happen. They're actually the second most common type of glial cell cancer that exists. They're not that rare. And they're the only kind of cancer that exists in the brain and does not travel outside of the brain. So if someone has a brain tumor that has not spread to like their lymph nodes or their spinal cord or anything, it's probably an astrocytoma because they don't spread outside of your brain because of the type of cells they're in. And one of the biggest neuron transmitters that they affect are the things that send your like those natural processes that you don't think about, like all the things that your brain does without you knowing that it's doing it, particularly your ability to breathe. So an astrocytoma growing at the rate with which Jonas's should have A, caused far more seizures, and B, should have shown some kinds of issues with him being able to breathe regularly.
I see.
But worse than their portrayal of the tumor itself was their portrayal of the surgery. Because I don't know if you noticed, but that surgeon just had regular ass scalpel and goggles on.
Yeah.
Not a fucking chance was a neurosurgeon using regular goggles.
No. We've all watched Grey's Anatomy.
We've all watched Grey's Anatomy. I just really wrote not actually have nearly enough equipment. All neurosurgeons, whether it is a big or small surgery, have a magnifying glass, not just a regular goggle.
Yeah.
Also, even at that time in the early 2000s, there should have been special lighting and microscopic scoping equipment to see that kind of brain tumor, because an astrocytoma or a glial cell tumor are star shaped, so they have indefinite edges. So you have to have like microscopic vision to know where the tissues start and end. So that was all just a hot mess. And they spent an unnecessarily long amount of time on the surgical scene as if it suddenly became a medical show, but we're doing everything wrong.
I was going to say that it felt like I had started watching Grey's Anatomy, but not quite.
Right. It was like, okay. So yeah, there's that. Do you have any thoughts, theories, feelings, questions?
I think I shared most of them throughout.
Yeah.
But my thought is that I'm glad Jonas didn't die.
Yeah.
Because I love him. And I hate Lord Vaughn. My God, I just want to punch him in the throat every day of every moment of every day.
Oh.
So that's all. That's all of my thoughts. No predictions because we already watched next week. So
yeah.
Are you okay?
Yeah, sorry. I got an email that didn't make any sense to me, but that's fine. I got distracted. Yeah, no, it's hard. We don't have predictions because we already watched the next episode. So who do you want to punch?
Mine.
That's fair.
73,000 times.
That's totally fair. I'm gonna punch Chazin though, because he is a dumbass.
Yeah, those are the two. Those are the two. So
yeah. Who's your MVP?
Jonas. Because he did kind of say that.
Yeah.
And he did want the best for everyone. Bless his heart.
Yeah.
So
I'm picking a Lori because she fucking shot Mott dead. There. Or Lori's daughter,
fair.
sorry.
Yeah,
She's
yeah.
a badass.
She's a pistol
Yes. With a pistol.
with a pistol. Yeah.
Yeah, good times. Um, yeah, so next week we
Is the
will have is
finale.
the season 6 finale. And the
Wild.
next episode of Thriller Thursday is the Hannibal
The
finale. So
finale.
it's
Oh my
a
God.
very exciting time.
Buckle up.
DNA. So yeah, if you have any thoughts, theories, questions, predictions, feedback for the finale, please email us at deathandaliens@gmail.com. You can follow us on all the social media at Death and Aliens. You can follow me everywhere at ENKAY_superstar.
And you can find me at CE Cloud 13.
And we will see you on Thursday for the worst day of my life.
Woohoo! Yay.
Yay!